Hey everyone, I welcome you all back to the channel UPSC CSE Basics. In this series of NCERT, we are dealing with the chapter 4, rather theme 8 of class 12 NCERT, themes in Indian history, part 2. This chapter talks about the details of peasant, zamindar and the state. That is, from timeline ranges from 17th century CE to 18th century CE. The relationship between the peasant, state and zamindars is shown in this chapter. Let's start its discussion in detail. The page number for 196 of this chapter deals about the rural population. It says that the 85% of the people lived in rural villages. Agriculture was the major activity. This, remember guys, this is in 17th century CE, that is from 1600s to 1700s CE, and before that century means the year 1600 to 17 means if we say that 18th century CE, then the year ranges from 1700 to 1800. Don't confuse with it in UPSC prelims exam, because sometimes we tend to confuse with it in hurry in exam. Getting back to the topic, the 85% of the rural population was dependent on agriculture. Agriculture was manpower extensive. This was the major factor in contribution to 85% population living in rural areas, because the rural areas because in rural area land was abundant to do agriculture. Even so, the agriculture was so strong that the Mughal Empire derived its 85% income from agriculture. Crops here grown led to the development of urban areas. Urban plus rural were connected by agriculture. The agriculture was such a backbone of Mughal Empire that the Abul Fazl N.A. Akbari that is the detail of the Akbar written by Abul Fazl has given the importance to agriculture. There are many chapters devoted to the agriculture in N.A. Akbari. It says that the major source of state empire of Mughal Sultanate was agriculture. Now, the page number 197 talks about the sources. Heading looking for sources. The major source is N.A. Akbari. It is the collection of 17th century CE. Pardon me. It is the collection of chronicles reigned during the reign of Akbar. Other such sources are chronicles, documents, sources, N.A. Akbari. Second sources are chronicles, documents, etc. The N.A. Akbari has given the top view of peasants or cultivators or kisan or asami or raya or rural rayat. These all are the name of farmers. The top view is given such that the revolt done by these peasants or farmers can't succeed because they are provided protection under Akbar's rule. This is a very narrow view given by N.A. Akbari, which was not true. The peasants and zamindars relation was so cordial that they certain times challenged the state. The center focus of the N.A. Akbari is to provide the Akbar's view of social harmony. That is where no revolts happen, no people are disguised, and everyone is happy. This was the view projected by Akbar and written by Abul Fazl. But the real conditions may would have been different, but we don't get written evidences of it. The agriculture in 17th century was so much developed that the people were classified into two types, that Pahikasht and Khudkasht. Guys, remember, these have been asked in UPSC prelims as it is. So pay attention to the facts like this. The Pahikasht means the one farmer peasant who is paying attention towards other field and he is tilling his own land. Today, as we see in modern days, where people work as laborers, Paikasht was a type of labor work given, and in the lieu of labor they were given good amount. Rather, the amount was so good and conditions sometimes did not favor the Khudkasht, that is the tilling's own land, that the people become Pahikasht by choice rather than by force, as in today's scenario. Page number 198 talks about the details of agricultural revenue. Average agricultural peasant. This page says that average agricultural peasant must have 2 plough plus 2 bullocks and 6 acres of land. This was the average farm share that a one kisan or farmer was owning. Point 1.3 on page number 198 talks about the irrigation and technology. There was an abundance of land, labor, and to mobilize this into effective farming, the presence of agriculture, irrigation and technology was a must. At this time, the primary aim basically was to feed people, state during war, famine, etc. Majority of agriculture was monsoon dependent. It was so much monsoon dependent that the Babar Nama a book written by Babur in Turkey language, or as NCERT says, Changtai language. This is the area of Mongol, and Babur was descendant of his mother from Mongol side. This is Turkic language, which is also called as Changtai language. Babur has also mentioned in Baburnama that no need of irrigation as natural sources are abundant. Rainfall, that is rainfall, would suffice. Autumn, spring crops grow without rainfall. He has also mentioned the wheel, which was used for irrigation, tilling, and plowing by bullocks or as pulleys in well. Guys, page number 200 talks about the abundance of crops. And before that, let's see the detail of tobacco, which is also given on this page. The spread of tobacco first was mentioned or seen in Deccan region in early 17th century CE. By 1604, Akbar first time saw it. By 17th century CE, the tobacco was a major crop used in day-to-day basis. It was so threatening to Jahangir that he even banned it. Guys, some details I forgot to tell you about the agriculture system. Yes, irrigation. The irrigation system made by Shah Jahan was called Shah Nehar, and it was majorly in Punjab region. And other system of canals, irrigation, are called as Nehar, Nala, or Shah Nehar. The agricultural technology during 17th century CE was having a wooden plow with iron tip. This is the plow, then this is part of wooden, which would make it lightweight, and this is made up of iron, which will not rust easily and is effective. This increased the efficiency of the farmers. One 1.4 talks about the abundance of crops. Crops like cotton and sugarcane were called as perfect crops, or other name was Jins A Kamil. That is the perfect crop that exists, and these fetch the highest revenues. Guys, terms like these are very important. Always pay attention towards them, what they mean and what is their context. Another term which shows us the abundance of crop is do fasla, that is minimum 2 crops. The majority of cotton was grown in Deccan region, and Bengal was famous for sugar or sugarcane. Guys, the Bengal of this time included some parts of UP, some parts of Bihar, some parts of Assam, and Northeast India also, plus other places. That is today's Bangladesh also. The Bengal region was very huge, not like today's state. Some cash crops like mustard, lentils shows that subsistence and commercial production were intertwined. Guys, these were considered as cash crops. At the end of 17th century CE, the commercial production has started entering into rural economy. Rural economy was the backbone of empire. The taxes were even so high that the foreign travelers took it as that there existed the no concept of private land, as we have seen in previous chapter, that Barbosa criticized Akbar's Mughal empire, or rather Mughal empire, as the empire having no private property. Rather, it was tax that was so high that he considered this tax as revenue or rent. So he misunderstood this as rent paid, and no private property existed in India. This was his misconception. At 17th century CE, maize was introduced from Africa and Spain, and it became a major crop in Western India. This side. Maize, major crop, introduced from Africa and Spain. By 17th century CE, it became a major crop. Tomatoes, potatoes, chilies, papaya, pineapple, fruits like these were also introduced by the advent of Portuguese in Indian subcontinent. Guys, remember agriculture was very labor intensive. So this led to the formation of very intertwined village communities. The agriculture was labor intensive. So this led to participation of laborers, and there existed the three hierarchical groups, that is cultivators, panchayat, and village headman, that is the head of panchayat. This village headman was also called as muqaddam or mandal. This led further to the formation of caste system in agriculture and led to the development of today's modern world peasant. Guys, see, even at that time, 17th century CE, the majority of population was having least resources, and they were given menial tasks, and their participation was like Dalits of modern India. So we can say that at 17th century to 18th century CE, the lower classes began to emerge in agriculture, or rather emerged completely in agriculture. The status of such some low class Muslims have been also mentioned on page number 202. It says that the halal Quran, that is scavengers, that is who carry waste, rather human waste. Guys, this is a very serious issue today. The government is having a serious view on this and is curbing the manual scavenging. And we have been able to run several schemes, and camps, etc., for manual scavengers. Halal Quran, back to the being back, coming back to the topic. Halal Quran was a term given to manual scavengers, and Mallazadas was son of boatmen or fishers. These both belong to low class Muslim caste. We also see the slaves in Bihar region. Basically, they remained outside village boundaries. So we can say that the caste discrimination related to work was also present at that time. Guys, the Panchayat and Headman, heading 2.2, mentions that the village headman was so strong and the Panchayat was strong that his most of the decisions were binding. Caste had direct correlation with social status of lower society. Such correlations were not so marked at intermediate levels. Guys, see, the this is the top of the pyramid, where kings, his nobles, zamindars, rich people, high class, priests, etc. dominate. This is the tip where very small people lived, and these all led the flow of resources like these. At intermediate levels, the caste were not much, but at lower level, there were many castes, as this books mention. Although the caste boundaries were not so rigid, some community one can rise from one caste to another by way of their working, etc. Examples have been shown in NCERT that Gauravas, cultivators around Vrindavan region in UP, sought Rajput status in 17th century CE. Castes such as Ahirs, Gujars, Malis rose in hierarchy due to profitability of cattle rearing and horticulture, as these were the major occupation practiced by these communities. Similarly, in eastern India, the caste community of Sadgops and Kaivartras. These were the fishing communities. They acquired peasant status. Some details about panchayats are like this: that the panchayat was a multi-member body. Guys, panchayat here is headed by, as I have told you earlier, that it is headed by Muqaddam or village headman or mandal, and its decision were binding. Now, the structure of panchayat was that it was a multi-member body having representatives from all caste. But here also the lower caste were less representative. Okay, the panchayat, as told you, that headed by Muqaddam, mandal. The marriages, social gatherings, etc. were done in presence of panchayats. In fact, in eastern India, all the marriages were done with the permission of panchayat or mandal. Sometimes these mandal also duped the people by becoming corrupt with patwaris. Patwari is a land revenue collector of village who reports the agriculture to revenue officers. Mandal sometimes fudged the land reports, etc., and would take away the lands of peasants by fooling them. Sometimes, if caste is violated in panchayat or in village, then the people is outcasted. That is, he can't live in village, he can't practice his profession, and he should not be visible to the people. This concept was so much enhanced later that the development of Jati Panchayats in Rajasthan became prominent. That is, the civil arbitration of disputes between caste, land, etc. Generally, the state also not interfered in their practices, but in criminal cases, the state generally interfered, and the state laws preferred over Panchayat Raj or Panchayat rules. At this time also, the word begar is mentioned, that is unpaid labor. It was imposed on lower caste by upper caste. This was frequently complained to state by people of lower caste. Guys, the panchayat was so efficient in this time that in case of drought or famine, there were hearings held in panchayats. In drought, famine, to decrease the land revenue, and village panchayat act as a court of appeal that encourage the state would carry out its moral obligation and guarantee justice. The panchayat would pursue the state to reduce its revenue. This was the role played by panchayat. Page number 204, point number 2.3, village artisans. Guys, like the agricultural peasants, there was also class of village artisans who were lower in category and having no land, they practiced artisanship. The land given to them by state or panchayat was called as miras or watan, that is land in lieu of services they provided, that is miras or watans. This was in particularly Deccan region or Maharashtra to be specific. The similar culture also developed around 18th century CE in Bengal region, where artisans were given remuneration for their work, and this remuneration was called as Jajmani system. Guys, this term has been asked in CDS, that is conducted by UPSC, so the term is important. Jajmani system is revenue in lieu, revenue in form of land in lieu of services they provided, or also the diet money or regular payments, etc. At this stage, that is 17th and 18th century CE, village functioned as a little republic. That is, the village was having everything in itself, from manufacturers to producers to consumers to village headmen. Everything was present, and this village functioned as a little republic. And there was also the central authority, that is village headman, that was controlling them all, that is mandal or mukaddam. Guys, the role of women in agrarian society in Mughal era can't be undermined. Women in agrarian society, it is given on page number 206. I hope I know, guys, this chapter is lengthy, but I hope you will be staying with me, because all the terms are directly can be used in mains answer writing and can be asked directly in pre. So it is our major focus to complete the NCERTs first. Guys, I have done this mistake and I don't want you to do this mistake, because the attempts are very short to repeat mistakes again and again. So please complete the NCERTs at any cost. Getting back to our topic, women in agrarian society. Actually, the men did the labor intensive work and women did less labor intensive work. Plus, they also handled household chores. Labor such as tilling and plowing was done by male members of family, and agricultural laborers, things like sowing, weeding, threshing, winnowing, were done by female. they both contributed to agricultural society. That is, we can see that our agricultural society is gender neutral, as is not the case in today's modern employment. Here the women are having certain biases. They are seen with a specific trait, but in rural agricultural society of Mughal era, women and men were having the same roles, almost same roles. Even the women in agrarian society was so important that remarriage, either divorced or widow, these both were permitted. The demand for women was so high that they were offered bride money, that is meher, in Mughal era. Meher is equal to bride money, is equal to price paid by men to convince women to marry him. Guys, see that this whole debate is on agrarian society, and the women here are very much considered important because the agrarian sector or agrarian society is labor intensive, and women were seen as a tool to enhance labor productivity, because we are talking during 17th to century 18 CE. At that time, the MMR, maternal mortality rate, neonatal mortality rate were so high that labor requirement could not be met by putting the restrictions on women. Therefore, widow remarriage, divorcee remarriage were permitted. Although the things were in favor of women at some extent, but there were still restrictions. That is, they were kept under male members' supervision. Infidelity on women was not accepted, but at males' part was sometimes ignored. Infidelity here means adultery, which was recently struck by Honorable Supreme Court. The panchayats also took a view on mediating the home disputes. It functioned as a mini court where the dispute between husband, wife, and issues related to infidelity done by husband was dealt. Although the wife, if had done infidelity, then this was be treated as serious. At same time, male infidelity was not always punished. The complaint of female against male members of infidelity and not following grihasti. Grihasti means here paying attention to family, children, and farm, etc. The complaint of the females against male members or their husbands were done in name of either mother or sister, so as to protect the woman from domestic violence, woman or wife of male member from domestic violence. The panchayat also acted as a mediator, that is quasi judicial function, as even today we see in village panchayats. Guys, the status of women also arose during these times, as some women of higher caste belong to Zamindars category, that is they owned and possessed huge lands. One such community was of Rajshahi in Bengal. Guys, after studying the women's role in agriculture, now the forest and tribes need to be studied. On page number 208, here the narrow view of today's general parlance of jungli is different. Jungli here means the one who stays in jungle and whose primary activity or source of earning is primarily from forest. Guys, why the people were moving to jungles or forest? This is a reason, this is rather effect caused due to the limitations in agricultural lands, social systems of villages, etc. Due to this, the people were moving towards land. The term Banjar here is mentioned on page number 208, means wasteland or non-cultivable, or another term given is khar bandi. Guys, don't confuse the term jungli with absence of civilization. It is not the meaning. Although today's general parlance we say it, but this is a derogatory term which should not be used. These are rather the people whose primary source of income depend from forest. The examples of some communities like Bhils have been given, like they were season specific activities according to Bhils in forest. The spring was used for forest collection. Summer were used for fishing purposes, and autumn were used for hunting, and monsoon this time was used for cultivation, because the rainfall was there, because the trees shed leaves so animals were easily visible. Summer because there was no monsoon and people wanted to do their day-to-day activities and subsistence, therefore fishing. And spring because the forest is on peak during spring, therefore the forest collection was done during spring. Sometimes the rebels or Mawas as called, they were the troublemakers of empire. They sometimes hide in forest. The forest people gave the peshkash or large gifts to king or elephant, king in form of elephant. Basically, there was a tribe called Ahom in Assam. Catching of elephant was considered their sole right. This was called the Peshkash when they gave it to the empire or the king. Page number 210 also mentions about the peasants, tribes, and the trades with the urban area, how this trade happened. Trade between the hill and plain is mentioned in N.A. Akbari. The tribals bought the items like ziduveri, which is turmeric like plant, merlin, which is a bird, kutakao, which is a yak, honeychuck, which is the acid of honey, plus lemon boiled together, and they took clothes colored plus white clothes plus indigo plus acetofoda, that is hing, plus ornaments to their hills. The value of the tribal products was so intensive at this time that the gum lac was the major export from India. This we are talking about the 18th century CE. 18th century CE, gum lac became the major export from India. I beg your pardon, in 17th century. That is from 1600 to 1700. The communities who facilitated the trade during Mughal Empire was Lohanis, who are the tradesmen from Punjab who facilitated trade. From overseas. Guys, I forgot you to tell one concept here. The Assam kingdoms Ahom were also given the military service. They gave military service in lieu of land. That is, instead of revenue, they were paid land for their military services. Page number 211 mentions about the Zamindars. The Zamindars in Mughal era have 3 to 4 major characteristics as opposed from the British times. British times Zamindars were cooperative, understand the peasant, not at all cooperative, cause distress in already existing rural stressed economy. Guys, the Zamindars in 17th and 18th century CE were so cordial that they gave genuine loans, helps, grants, etc. to peasants. And their presence and support was so strong that that is the peasants, also supported them in revolt against state. That is, The peasants and zamindars were having give and take relation. In fact, it was the state revenue officers who caused trouble sometimes to the agrarian sector. Majorly, the zamindars were formed due to their superior social status, and they were having sometimes the forts or kilchas. Abul Fazl has said about zamindar that upper caste Brahmins plus Rajputs already have control and hold over the people of their region. That is, they were respected and followed and having hold on their regions. They later started providing the state services by acting intermediaries between the rural people and state during British era, that is East India Company era, and later then British Empire. Page number 212 talk about the parallel army of zamindars. The zamindar had a parallel army that they supported sometimes the state when they required. The process of becoming a zamindar is also mentioned in page number 212. The communities like Rajputs and Jats started consolidating land in North India by sale, acquiring, transfer, etc. And the profitability increased, and by the profitability increased in cattle rearing and agriculture, they were able to consolidate land, and they later became zamindars. Similarly, Sadgopes, that is peasant pastoralist, also carved out powerful zamindar in southwest Bengal. Guys, as I have already told you that zamindars were not at all exploitatory at this stage, that is during Mughal era. They were a connecting link between agriculture and farmers. They were so cordial that they sometimes waived off loans, revenues, etc. But the state officials were so corrupt or strict at this time that they acquired the land of the peasants if taxes were not paid to state. The Amil Guzar is a term given to Amil Guzar is a term given to revenue collector in Mughal era. Akbar's N.A. Akbari, pardon me, Abu Fazl's N also mentioned that the Akbar gave an option to pay in kind, that is in form of crops, etc. N.A. Akbari has mentioned that the land categorization was done and assessed for productivity before taxing it. The original assessment done was called as Jama, that is the amount to be paid. But due to some agricultural drought, famines, etc., when the revenue was low, the actual amount the peasant paid is called as Jama. Pardon me, is called as Hasil, and the Jama is amount which is assessment, original assessment, and Hasil is the assessment, rather the collection which is real. This existed on paper and this is real, that is the revenue actually got. The classification of lands under Akbar is mentioned in N.A. Akbari by Abul Fazl as Polaj land, who is never left idle. Paroti, that is left to regain strength. And Chachar, that is 3 to 4 years fallow, that is from 3 to 4 years nothing has been cultivated. And Banjar, that is 5 years or more, no cultivation. N.A. Akbari has classified the land into these four. The N.A. Akbari has also mentioned the Mansabdari system, which is military plus bureaucratic system. The mansabs were paid sometimes in cash and sometimes in kind, that is land plus cash. Cash is called as nakdi, and when paid through land is called as jagir, that is the mansabdar became jagirdar later. The actual condition of cultivation is called as maujudat, which means according to peasant, the guys, the term maujudat means the actual condition of cultivation. Jama was calculated on basis of maujudat and keeping separate the interest, that is kifayat, of the state. This term is mentioned as it is. Remember it, guys. This also it is mentioned as it is. Remember it. Please remember it, because these can be asked anytime. The ways to classify the maujudat, that is the actual condition, is mentioned in N in 4 types. That is Khan cut. Khan here means grain and cut means estimate. Crop was divided here into heaps according to quality and share was taken. The second system was Batai, also known as Bauli, in which the reaped and sacked according to agreement, initial agreement, and divided. The third one was Khet Batai. In this system, after sowing, it was divided. And fourth one is Lang Batai. In this, after cutting grain, they were formed heap and divide. Guys, the reason why these agricultural developments and prosperity took place at a major pace was the presence of stability. That is the stability at the Indian subcontinent. How the stability was there? Because the 3 powers like Ming of China, Safavid of Iran, Ottoman at Turkey, these had cordial relationships and not interfered with Mughals at India, and this led to the favorable trade, economic growth, enhancement of rural economy, etc. The trade to India was so huge that most of the world's silver came to India. As India don't have reserves of silver, natural reserves of silver, so the major silver produced in the world came to India. This is according to Giovanni Carreri, who passed India from 1690s. During his expedition, he told that the majority of the world's silver traveled to reach India. This can be also seen from the Mughal coins and later British coins, thus they were minted in silver. Guys, the page number 217 mentions about the N.A. Akbari, because it is a very major and extensive source of Akbar's reign. It was deliberately told by Akbar to write to Abu Fazl about the state, about the genuine records of state, chronicles, etc. This is written in Persian language. The Abul Fazl, guys, before that, some terms related to international trade are such that the Galag, Gulgh, is called as Gulf of Persia as we see today. Siam is Thailand. Ceylon is Sri Lanka. Tanseri is a port in Pegu, which is Myanmar. These are the Mughal period names. Of outside region. Guys, the coming back to N.A. Akbari, the N.A. Akbari or Akbarnama is divided into three major parts. The first two parts talk about the historical narrative, and third part talks about the imperial regulation and gazettes. Guys, the page number 218 mentions the term province, which is Suba. UPSC has asked this in previous year, the sequence of Suba, Sarkar, Pargana. This is the increasing sequence. A trick to remember it is SSP. That is Senior Superintendent of Police. Jokes apart, S stands for Suba here. Second S for Sarkar and P for Pargana. Books are also called as daftars during Mughal era. Total 5 were made in N, that is 5 daftars. That is 5 books in N.A. Akbari. The 3 parts are different thing, but these are the 5 books. First is Manzil Abadi. It mentions about the household imperial. Second is Sipahi Abadi. It mentions about Subedars, soldiers, etc. Third is Mulk Abadi. It mentions about the fiscal and state. It also mentioned the details of agrarian society, its tax collecting system or revenue, etc. Fourth one is and fifth one. These both are related to religious, literary, cultural traditions of India. Guys, the N is N or N.A. Akbari. These both are terms used interchangeably. Written by Abul Fazl, is considered as an official record of Akbar. But there are some limitations of N.A. Akbari. Like, it has skewed data that is from majority of near capital to Agra, West Bengal or Bengal area, less data is present. Caste information about specific caste is also mentioned, but majority of caste are missed out. No uniform agricultural data, and it varied from time to time. These are the some limitations that are mentioned that can be deciphered from N Akbari. Guys, on the page number 221, a important table is given. Please remember that table as it is, because the details like chronology, etc., are asked directly in these days in prelims. Let me give you a short glimpse of this. That in 1560, the first battle of Panipat, Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodi at Panipat and become the first Mughal emperor. From 1530 to 1540, this was the first phase of Humayun, till he was defeated by Sher Shah Suri, and he went at exile at Safavid court. Humayun regained his territory in 1555 to 56, but year after gaining his territory, he died. Then the great Akbar reign started from 1556 to 1605. This was the major period of Mughal Empire, which was prosperous, less conflict, and inclusive. From 1605 to 27, reign of Jahangir, who was son of Akbar, also named as Salim, was there. Then from 1628 to 58, Shah Jahan reign. In this period, the state went into fiscal deficit due to increased monument, structure, spending, and construction of cities like Shahjahanabad, etc. He also built temples, Taj Mahal Monument, Red Fort, Jama Masjid, etc. From 1658 to 1707, Aurangzeb reign was there, in which there was a conflicting situation with 6 Hindus. He also imposed jizya on non-Muslim subjects. In 1739, Nadir Shah invades India and sacks Delhi. He looted and plundered the Delhi city. In 1761, Ahmad Shah Abdali defeated Marathas in Third Panipat battle. In 1765, Battle of Buxar led to Diwani rights to East India Company. In 1857, last Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah Zafar II was deposed by British and sent to Rangoon. Guys, that's all for today. I hope you understand well, memorize well, and if any doubts, please feel free to contact me. I am also mentioning my personal Instagram, Telegram handle to contact me if any doubt exists. That's all for today, guys. Keep grinding, stay alive, live to fullest. That's all for today. Thank you.